I do want to talk about different circumstances of why some things happen that might not fit into this exact paradigm of us learning and our ability to create, to love, and to learn. Let's talk about a soul that leaves their physical body at a young age. For me, when I began this journey, that was one of the most difficult concepts for me to make sense of, because you can explain the rest, but a younger person, how do you find some meaning in that? And what I've discovered in communicating with my guides is that it can make sense if we look at it from a very, very different perspective, and sometimes a perspective that we're not accustomed to hearing about on Earth. One thing I've noticed by doing a lot of one-on-one sessions with people, I get to meet a lot of souls who have separated from the physical realm, and I've met a lot of them. I've heard their stories, I found out why they left, I found out what they're doing now, I find out what they want for the person I'm sitting with. And I've come across a good number of people who separated from their physical body at rather young ages, and sometimes tragically, and not that uncommonly, even in an event like 9/11. I've communicated with a lot of those souls. So what happens? As I communicate with these souls, I can feel a very powerful energy. I can almost feel the vibrational energy of people's guides as they're communicating with me. Sometimes it comes in with such a force that I feel the strength of that sun in the room. And I've noticed that every time I'm communicating with a soul that's separated at a young age, that this energy is very large in the room. So how would a person who's 7 years old understand that their soul's purpose may have greater impact and meaning if they separated at 7 rather than 97? How could a young soul have any kind of a connection to their soul's purpose to make that decision? It's not a decision, but it's a soul's push. The reason is, most often, it's a very high vibrational energy. It's a soul who understands this concept. Here's our eternal lives. On and on. Well, you know it's infinite. Let's do the mathematical arrows at the end, okay? We come to Earth. We take a physical life. Here's one. We come to Earth. We take a physical life. Here's another. We hang out in the energy realm for a while because it's nicer there. Using the wrong marker again. We come to Earth again. As this goes on infinitely, you start to see that it's rather small in our eternal existence. The amount of time that we're spending on Earth is small. It's as though we're laying a grain of sand down on Earth while we're here. So sometimes when the soul is very, very connected to their quest to being here, it's okay to lay the grain of sand down, but let's make it a very, 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 very big grain of sand. While I'm here on Earth, such a soul would think, without actually knowing that they're thinking this, I want to have an effect on other people's ability to love, to create, and to learn, much greater than if I had just continued through the course of my normal Earth years to longevity. I think that I can have a massive effect. And I think that by doing so, the people that I affect will affect a larger layer of people after them, and so on and so on. If you think about just one soul who separated during 9/11, it wasn't a typical loss as far as the impact that it has on Earth people. One soul that separated in 9/11 affected their immediate family. They affected their neighborhood. They affected everyone in their job. They affected their postal workers. They affected their grocery clerks. They affected every single person that ever knew them. Not only that, But everyone who knows any one of these people now have an opportunity to be affected too. Your letter carrier goes home and he said, so-and-so who was on my route, he was one of the people in the Twin Towers. He tells his wife, he tells his children, they have a conversation about it about dinner. What is the opportunity here? Every person who hears the story, every person who came into contact with that soul on earth, or indirectly with a soul that was indirectly in contact with that soul on earth, now has an opportunity. And that opportunity comes with a choice. What do I do with the information that I knew this soul? What do I do with the information that I knew someone who knew this soul? I can choose to grow in hatred, or I can choose to grow in love. But somehow, innately, the soul that separated understood that he was leaving vast opportunities for the world to expand in love. What we do with these opportunities is our choice as individuals and as communities and as nations. But they left opportunities to grow in love. When people came out with these great amounts of donations and charities after 9/11, people were exercising their ability to love, exercising their ability to give love. The people who were receiving the funds and the nurturing and the care, they were exercising their ability to receive love. And it went all over the globe, to most parts of the globe, to any part of the globe that was ready in their collective awareness to expand in their ability to grow. They knew of these souls, they heard stories. With the way that we travel, the way that we communicate globally, people all over the world know someone who knew someone who knew someone. It's touched everywhere. So that's an explanation. Then, as an energy, in the energy realm again, these souls continue to want to affect us. They continue to want to have an impact on our ability to love, to create, and to learn. What I'm going to talk to you about right now a little bit about is intuition.
Can I just ask for a clarification? You talked about the 7-year-old passing and why that 7-year-old would choose to pass. And I would like you just to explain a little bit more about whether or not that choice was to affect his family alone, or possibly the community, or how far you think that can go. And what's the best way for the family to be able to grow from that experience?
Yeah, the reason I use the example of 9/11 is because it is a universal example that we've all had an opportunity to think about in our own lives, and we can understand how it extends beyond the immediate circle and goes on. But the principle is exactly the same when it's a child. When a child passes, it has more of an effect on a community than when it's a 90-year-old neighbor. People rally, they bring meals, they come and they babysit for the other children, they donate, they start foundations, and it just has an energy that is greater. The ability for people to extend beyond themselves and to support someone else during this period allows them to exercise their ability to love. And this is one of the reasons that a high vibrational energy child may have this as the fulfillment of their soul's quest. And we can't really use the word choice. There's no conscious energy in it. There's not a decision that's made. But I will tell you something. The number of clients that I sit with who lost a child that have heard their child say something to the effect that they knew that they weren't going to live to be very old, or talk about communicating with souls that are not here, talk about things of a very deep and ethereal nature where they have no exposure to this information at all. Universally, every child that I've ever communicated with that separated at a young age had this wisdom that surpasses most adults that we meet. It's incredible. It's incredible to witness that. And that aspect of the child is what helps the parent to use as a tool for opening the door, to expand their awareness that this child's life had meaning and value and continues to have meaning and value. Before I start to talk about intuition, I want to talk about one particular vocabulary term that Ayn uses in the book. She refers to our soul's vibrational energy as our soul song. And what this is, it's a little bit like our fingerprints, where no two people have the same fingerprints. But, you know, fingerprints are kind of boring. I really don't care what your fingerprint looks like. But soul songs are not boring. They are so unique. Everyone has their own. No two are alike. No two will ever be alike. We are unique. And our soul song has an energy that is recognizable whether we are in a physical body or not. The reason I can communicate with souls that separated is because I can hear the soul songs of souls that aren't in a physical body. The energy is the same. It's so easy for me to comprehend that soul's personality, their underlying personality when they were in their physical body, because the soul song is the same. And it helps the client that I'm sitting with recognize that it is, in fact, Aunt Ella or whoever else it might be. That's how it works. Our soul songs remain the same. We are as individual as any different possibility you could ever imagine. And when we're in the energy realm, we recognize the differences in our soul songs. Now, what happens after somebody separates, and why is intuition important when it comes to learning from the souls that aren't here any longer? One of the things that Stryker spoke about in the beginning, which I think is critical, is we're so appreciative for the John Edwards of the world. I know I am, because he is allowing millions of people on earth to understand and have validation that we are eternal. And with all of the evidence that he's giving to people that he sees and people that see him on television, most people are beginning to comprehend that this can't be smoke and mirrors, that there's some truth to this, the details that he comes forth with. It's just, you can't make this stuff up. Now that people are beginning to understand that we're eternal, what does it mean for us? There's got to be a reason we know this. There's got to be a reason that archaeologists dig and dig and dig to find out about past civilizations. This knowledge matters for reasons. This is why many souls direct their energy into expanding that knowledge. He's expanded that knowledge for us, and others who do work that is like him. There's a couple of reasons why we want to know we're eternal. Number one, because we know that we're going to a place that we will continue on happily forever and ever and ever. And more importantly than that, we know that we can communicate with the energy realm, and that because they haven't experienced Earth life and all of the masks and layers and baggage and misinformation that comes with being an Earth person, they have more clarity about our lives here and why we're here as individuals. One of the most amazing things that I discovered is Earth amnesia goes away when you die. And when I communicate with you, when you don't have a physical body, there's no masks, there's no layers, there's clarity, there's clear seeing. And we can't necessarily do that with ourselves because we've accumulated so much information over our lifetimes, information that we attach to ourselves like barnacles, but we don't even know when the barnacles are there and when they're not there. They have clarity. And not only that, but they love us unconditionally. So they have clarity, they love us unconditionally. It sounds like a pretty good opportunity. Now, if they can communicate with us, they can show us things that we haven't been able to find on our own that can be of value to us. And this is where intuition comes in. Intuition encompasses what I do, which maybe most of you are going to dedicate your lives to doing what I do or communicating at the ability that I do. But there's so many other ways that you're communicating with the energy realm. And more people are beginning to understand that a coincidence is not random. It is a coinciding purposefully of two events or people or circumstances or places that has value. We're beginning to learn that when someone dies and then 9 light bulbs blow in the house over the next 2 weeks, it's not random, it's purposeful. We start to recognize signs, we start to see things in ways that we haven't seen it before. And as we begin to exercise the muscle of using our own intuition, we can begin to open up the pathway of communicating with our own guides or communicating with the energy realm so that we can get useful information that helps direct us to the path that's going to bring us the greatest happiness for ourselves on earth. And it's not that you have to become a John Edwards. I don't think a lot of people would have that as their goal. But there's anywhere between John Edwards and someone who's just walking on the street, not believing in intuition at all. You can fall anywhere on the spectrum in the middle. But if you begin to recognize how these coincidences pop up, especially when you need them most, and you can exercise your ability to focus on something that matters, and you can see that you have a partner in your earth life that can help you. What's fascinating is it's usually when we're having our greatest challenges that we open up to our ability to connect with our intuition and to connect with our guides. I have met so many people who didn't believe in any of this stuff at all until my father died, and then at his birth date would come up on my digital clock every night and the garage door would open. 3 nights in a row. What does that mean? Well, a soul that's not here is energy. One of the easiest ways for them to communicate with us is through our energy system. So electrical happenings, the power going out, a light bulb blowing, the garage door going up, a doorbell ringing and there not being anyone there, a false start of a machine, all of these things happen to be some of the simplest ways that someone that we love will get in touch with us. But it was only the loss that allowed that person to open up to the possibility that this communication is real. All right, once I said the garage door went up, this is really creepy. Second time, I'm like, this isn't creepy, this is getting kind of cool. So he starts to make phone calls. I don't know what to make of this, but let me tell you what happened. So the soul that's, knowing what's going on with the guy said, all right, I got him. Let's do it one more time. And he can't disbelieve anymore. Garage door goes up a 3rd time, and for sure he's like, all right, I know you're here. And then the communications start to happen. But we don't need to have something happen that's unpleasant in our lives for us to connect with our intuition. It's easy to practice. It's easy to do it on a day-to-day basis. And sometimes the most fun way to practice it is when we're happy. One of the exercises that guides have given me during sessions, and it seems to help people so much to develop their intuition, is to take an hour off from whatever you're doing and go to a bookstore with absolutely no agenda. And just go where the bookstore takes you. Pull the book off the shelf, whatever takes you. Don't have any thinking going on. Stop thinking. And look at what book you wind up pulling off the shelf. Open it up to a random page, read a passage. There's going to be a message for you. There's going to be something very clear in that book for you on that day. I'll let her get settled. No problem. Give me a chance to get a sip of water. The whole idea is to just stop thinking, to stop embracing our intellect as the be-all, end-all. It isn't the be-all, end-all. It happens to be one of the things that screws us up more than anything on earth, is when we use our intellect. And think about when you had to make a decision in your own life. I like to use the example of moving to a different state. If you or anyone you know have ever had to make this decision. My job is moving out of state. Will I go or will I stay? Do I want to follow the company or do I want to stay here? I'm telling you, within 5 seconds, you know it. And what you're going to wind up doing, you're going to take as much time as that company will give you to agonize over the choices. You're going to think about it and think about it and think about it and weigh the pros and weigh the cons and make lists and call people and research and do this and do that and do this. You're going to be up at night. You won't be able to sleep. You're going to decide to go. You're going to tell everyone you're going. People are going to cry. You're going to say, I'm not going. And then you'll decide, we're staying. This is what will happen. But what will inevitably happen will be what you thought in the first 5 seconds. Because in the first 5 seconds, that was your intuition. It was telling you from your heart and from your soul either what you knew you would do or what it is that you wanted to do. And the only thing that got in the way to murky up the path is all the thinking that you did between when you had the thought and when you opted to move or opted to stay. When I began this process, the channels, as I learned how to open them, as soon as I began to think, the channels shut. It was as though, I can't tell you how many times I said, oh my God, I'm not psychic. I used to be psychic, but I'm not anymore. And I would get all this fear, but the fear and the thinking shut it down. I couldn't do it anymore because I was thinking, I wasn't intuiting, I wasn't letting it be, I wasn't getting myself out of the way. It's just a matter of really getting your own thinking out of the way so that you can follow the path that's going to open up to bring you your greatest joy.